The doomsday is here.
World's coming to an end.
We feared this would happen. We did. We talked about it, but I feel like both of us kind of never really thought it was going to happen. You know, like we
and it
talked
still
about
doesn't
it.
feel real. It still doesn't feel real.
In the back of my mind, I always thought, oh, Duke's going out to Texas Tech or Arkansas, or no way Carolina actually makes it to the Final Four. And it's here. It's come upon us.
I thought Duke was going to lose to Texas Tech.
I thought that was once they beat Texas Tech and then Gonzaga lost, I was like, okay, so Duke's
I thought Duke
in.
and Carolina were going to lose in the Sweet 16.
That UCLA game had me in. I was in tears almost again, just like the Baylor game.
But I was shaking after the Texas Tech game.
Yeah, that was crazy. But then, like, we played St. Peter's, and I just, like, I hate to say this. I would never say it before the game. I knew it was going to be a blowout. Knew.
It felt like a 1-16 game.
They literally looked like a 15 seed. Like, that should have been a first-round matchup. They mentioned it on the broadcast that, you know, like, normally if you think, oh, Carolina, St. Peter's, it's a 1-16, 2-15 matchup first round, not an Elite Eight game between 8 and 15.
Let's run through it real quick. And like we talked about Sweet 16, Gonzaga choked. Big choke. They never turned it on. And I made the comparison. I think I tweeted it out that they looked like the Chiefs this year. You saw like early season Chiefs where they just could never really turn it on to that previous Chiefs. And then Gonzaga, when they can turn it on, they dropped 120 on BYU. They just never really turned it on, and it just bit them in the butt because Arkansas just kept making layups. And Gonzaga was missing easy floater after easy floater.
And there was stretches, not even necessarily during the game, just throughout the season where Gonzaga showed flashes like, oh, this is why they're the number one overall seed. And then you expected them to like, oh, we'll take the first round matchup, not very seriously, maybe only win by, a few points, whatever. They just never flipped that switch. Mm-hmm. And I feel like everybody thought that would come and they could just do it whenever. It just did not happen. It was too late.
One more, and then let's move on. Texas Tech, Duke. That game was phenomenal. I thought that might have been the best game. I thought that was the best Sweet 16 game. That one or the Carolina one, they were about neck and neck just because they were so blow for blow, making insane shots. Jeremy Roach hit some absurd shots.
100%. And we talked about this before. Mark Williams' ability to go vertical and not foul, because, big men like that who are shot blockers have a tendency to get foul trouble, bite on pump fakes. He can go up, and even if he doesn't get the block, he doesn't foul them. He still affects the shot, which is unlike, especially in the Elite Eight game. It's not like anything I've ever seen.
And that was my argument why he deserved ACC Player of the Year, because every time a team drives down in the lane, they have to deal with Mark Williams. And that is a huge problem. Like, he affects so many shots, but shout out Texas Tech, dude. That team is going to be tough for forever. Mark Adams is obviously a good coach. They don't have any like really good players. Like, none of those guys were actually that good. It kind of felt like a little Virginia-like, where
they just bought into the system.
And they just bought into the system, played hard defense, and they could compete with anybody on a given night.
Oh, yeah, I felt that way too, especially watching them for a few games in the tournament, because I didn't catch many of their games in the regular season, and so there was a lot of hype with them coming into the tournament. So I wasn't very up to date with that. But then after watching them in the tournament, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And also with Texas Tech, I mean, they lose Chris Beard and then they're fine. But this will be my last thing on that game. As a BYU fan, BYU is about to become the bottom of the barrel in the Big 12. They are about to get whooped.
When's their first year in it?
Not next year, but the year after.
Okay, that's what I thought. So they got one more year. Okay.
Yep.
Better enjoy it.
So, all right, let's move on. Carolina, UCLA. That game was wild. Everybody knew it was going to be, and that
it was
game
unreal.
Lived up to every expectation.
Oh my gosh, it was just so nerve-wracking because you knew Johnny Juzang was due for a game. You knew it was going to happen, and he didn't have the best game. He only had I think he 14 on 5 for 13 shooting, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like a crazy breakout game, but he had a couple tough shots in the beginning. Jaquez was hitting a couple tough moves in the beginning. Me and Chip were screaming at the TV, yelling, his ankle's fine. They were BSing the whole week. But it was just blow for blow. And shout out Carolina for being poised at the end. And Caleb Love throwing up those threes at the end of that game was unbelievable. I don't know how you felt as a Duke fan or an unbiased party.
It felt like not unbiased party. I clearly wanted UCLA. Yeah. I was all over UCLA, everything. My heart dropped when Caleb Love hit that three after Baycott saved it. My heart dropped. And then not even the second three. The second three, I was like, whatever. I knew it was game. when he hit that first three to tie the game at 64,
huge.
Your heart, my hands just fell into my lap, or my head fell into my lap,
And that's the thing that's been so frustrating and rewarding all year long as a Carolina fan is you have to live with that because Caleb Love, like he did, dropped 30 points in a game to go to the Elite Eight. A couple, obviously, like those last few 3-pointers, probably bad shot selections. He was feeling it, but still, like not the best shot selections. As a fan, you just have to live with that because when it's good, it's great. And it's going to take you to that next level. We've talked about it all year. When Caleb Love plays well, Carolina plays well. If he doesn't play well in that game, we lose. If he does not have 30 points, we lose.
Purdue, St. Peter's, Purdue choked. Purdue is always a fraud. They're another team. They turned it on in November, and then everyone's like, okay, they're good. And they never really got back to that gear until and just never. And St. Peter's just dominated them.
They peaked at the wrong time, way too early in the year, and I still picked them. I still was like, oh, they can probably turn it on. Like they have the depth. Jaden Ivey will make big shots, which he did make a couple of big shots in this tournament. But it just felt like they underestimated St. Peter's. Like, oh, they're a 15 seed. They're not supposed to be here. And Carolina did not make that same mistake.
And last thing on that game, Stevanovic died. He's terrible. Like, what happened to him?
I was literally going to bring that up because the beginning of the year, especially in the game against Carolina, he killed us. And I'm looking at his game log right now, actually. He's only been in double figures. He had 11 versus St. Peter's. The previous 5 or 6 games before that, he had no more than 6 points.
And it looks every 3-pointer he takes, you're just like, oh, he missed that.
Yeah,
I don't remember the last time he hit a 3.
No, it was hard to watch, honestly. And you would think with Purdue's size, like Armando Bacot dominated St. Peter's. Purdue did not do that, and they have 2 all-conference centers. I've been preaching it all year. Zach Edey only played 17 minutes. I don't know.
Jaden Ivey made some terrible decisions in that game. Jaden Ivey lost that game, I feel like.
4 for 12, 6 turnovers. Just at the end of the game, it's like they almost just choked up. Like they got this tight.
Okay, real quick, let's run through the other side of the bracket, more boring games. Let's do Miami, Iowa State. Miami was always winning that game. Iowa State stinks.
Shout out Big Cat game of the year.
And then Kansas, Providence. We all knew what was going to happen in that game.
We mentioned this. We texted about it. I told Chip this other day. Kansas has had the easiest road to the Final Four. And you can say what you want to. They had to beat Providence.
To the national championship game because now Villanova, they only have 5 rotation players.
Everything has been falling in Kansas's favor. And neither of us were hot on Kansas coming into the tournament.
I'm still not.
Yeah, I'm still not.
Because if I guarantee you, and that's the thing, like I would if they would have played at like a team that was hot, obviously any team that makes it to the Elite Eight or Final Four, they're hot. Miami just died for some reason. Miami looked so much better than them in that first half, and they just died. Miami scored 15 points in the second half.
They just couldn't withhold that inevitable Kansas run because you knew Kansas was going to go on a run. It was a matter of if Miami could take it and then respond accordingly, and they couldn't do it. And Charlie Moore, who had been outstanding for the whole tournament, it seemed like he just, I don't know, like he did not have a great game at all.
No, not at all. Arizona, Houston dominated. I didn't get to watch much of that game because Texas Tech Duke was on at the same time. So
yep.
And I was in a 1 TV situation.
Mm-hmm. Rookie mistake.
Wasn't gonna. You could have had like 10 other TVs, and I would just had.
Oh yeah,
locked in.
I was the same way.
Even if it was like the Michael Scott 15-inch TV, I was still gonna lock into that Duke game either way.
Yeah.
Houston looked good, and then they just That's my problem with the teams like Houston, Texas Tech, and Virginia. Virginia was the exception because they actually had legit good dudes like DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, Kyle Guy in their championship run. But the reason it feels like these teams like that, they're not going to win championships is one, they don't have NBA caliber dudes. You're never going to win unless you have solid, even NBA,
exactly,
second round pick good potential dudes.
Yeah.
But also, you got to be able to shoot the ball. You just got to be able to shoot the ball and have good guard play because someone's going to get hot against you in the tournament. At least one team gets hot.
I was going to say you have to have at least 1 or 2 guys that you can give the ball to and say, go get a bucket, and you can feel good about a shot they put up. And I feel like Houston just did not have that.
And one of them has to be a point guard. We've seen it. Carolina with RJ Davis or Caleb Love have been making huge shots. Kansas with Remy Martins making huge shots. Colin Gillespie on Nova making huge shots. Jeremy Roach is making massive, massive shots. Every point guard is having to make huge plays, and the teams that lose, their point guards are not winning.
100%. 100%. And I thought after that Houston-Arizona game, I was like, Wow, Houston may be a sleeper pick, and then they just came out and got annihilated.
Oh yeah, I looked it up. I was like, oh, Houston 6-1 to win the title. This is solid.
Yeah,
because we'll get into the Final Four here in a second, and we'll do a preview later on in the week. But let's see here. The last game is what was the last game? I'm blanking here.
Michigan Villanova. Yeah,
boring.
Yeah, I never really thought Michigan had a chance.
Nova's path wide open layups. Boring.
And Nova's path has not been crazy hard. I would argue Duke and Carolina's path has been harder than theirs.
Absolutely. Carolina. Okay, let's get into this real quick because Carolina fans are like, oh, we had a hard path. You're an 8 seed. You don't deserve an easy path.
That's fair, but I've seen people say like, oh, Duke's had a harder path than Carolina. That's just not true. And I'm not saying it's not deserved. Like, we're an 8 seed. Obviously, we have to play the number 1, 2, second round. But Duke has not had a harder path than Carolina. The Elite 8 game to get to the Final Four, obviously harder. But other than that, Baylor, UCLA, I mean,
I think they're the exact same paths.
I disagree.
I think they're literally the exact same path. I think Arkansas and Baylor Texas Tech and Baylor are the exact same.
I guess, but like
Texas Tech and Baylor are the exact same.
Duke's a 2 seed. We're an 8 seed.
Yeah, exactly. You guys should have a harder road. That's what I'm saying.
That's fine. I'm not saying it's not warranted, but Duke did not have a harder road, and that's what I've seen people say. That's what I'm arguing. Whatever the seeding is, whatever. Duke's road was not harder to get here.
But for being a 2 seed, it was a harder road, is what I think Duke fans are saying. That's not getting put in there. But also, it doesn't matter. You win your games.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, not the whole road in general, but if, like I said this before, if I had to pick a 1 seed to play, it would have been Baylor. So I looked out
exactly.
With that,
and I don't think there's an easier 8 or 9 seed to play than Marquette.
I could see that. I think there was a lot of 10 seeds that were better than Marquette.
In Carolina's defense, I think the last 15 seed you wanted to play was St. Peter's.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm funny.
Yeah, no, you get to play a 15 seed in the Elite Eight. I mean, come on.
I could. Oh no, I'm not arguing that at all.
You know, if y'all played Purdue, I don't think Carolina wins that game.
I don't either. I don't know. It's tough to beat a team twice.
That is Carolina's worst matchup possible, though.
It kind of is. I don't know. Carolina's a much different team than they were back in December whenever they got waxed by Purdue. So I was worried about that game. But when St. Peter's won, let me just tell you, when St. Peter's beat them, obviously I was nerve-wracked about the UCLA game. But I was like, if we win this, we're probably in the Final Four. That was my thought.
Confession time. I thought the exact same thing when Gonzaga lost. Because
Arkansas
won,
was just,
and you're just like, we match up really well. It's like, if we can beat Texas Tech, we can definitely beat Arkansas because they're the exact same team.
It's just a matter of if JT Note can get 40 points, and he obviously most 9 times out of 10 will not do that.
Jalen Williams flop his way into Mark Williams getting multiple fouls, and almost happened.
I completely disagree with all the charge calls that have been happening this whole entire tournament, but at least they've been consistently bad. I mean,
I don't even think they've been consistent because then randomly they'll just call a block.
Yeah, it just seems like
they're just awful across the board.
You can never know what's coming. Like, there's supposedly set rules for what a charge is and what a blocking foul is, and I feel like me and you know those rules very well, and we still, like, once a play happens, we're like, what are they gonna call? Because you just don't know.
No, they literally just flip a coin in their head, like they see it happening, and they're just like, okay, I'm going block here, or hey, let
me switch the momentum. The crowd's into it. Let me just block or charge.
It is absolutely out of control. But let's talk about the Elite Eight games. Let's get the boring ones out of the way. Kansas, Miami up 6 at the half and lose by 26.
I thought they were going to do it, and they came out and just died in the second half. I couldn't believe it.
I don't know what was said at halftime or what happened, or if they celebrated at halftime.
Yeah.
They died. Like, it crumbled immediately.
Kansas strapped up on defense, and Miami just could not run an offense. Wardberg fouling out didn't help, but that wouldn't have mattered if we're being honest.
They looked like the Miami, like when they were playing the bottom teams of the ACC in like the ACC in January.
Exactly. They looked like the Miami that lost in the ACC tournament.
They still competed with Duke.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It looked like when they played Boston College, though.
Yeah, that's
when
fair,
they had a buzzer beater to beat Boston College. But
yes.
Anyhow, fair. Kansas joke they won. Anyhow, Nova and Houston.
I watched most of that.
By far the closest one, and boring.
Ugly. 50-44, 94 total points in an Elite Eight game. That is horrible.
It was so gross. And just everybody was missing wide open shots, easy layups. It was so gross. And Villanova's about to get murdered. Like we'll do a quick preview today and then do a real preview later in the week. Villanova is about to get murdered.
Both those teams, Houston and Villanova, it seemed like they were looking for ways to lose the game. Like nobody won that game. It's just Houston lost it. It was just hard to watch from a basketball fan perspective.
Because that's the thing. That was one of those games coaching mattered way too much.
100%.
All right, let's do. I mean, UNC St. Peter's. These games were just boring. Literally 4 minutes in, game was over.
Dude, I'm telling you, I was 1,000,000 times more nervous for the game against Marquette, the game against Baylor, and the game against UCLA. Coming into this game, which is the
Elite
fourth
Eight
game, the Elite Eight game, the most stakes we've played in so far. I wasn't nervous at all. Like I was just sitting there like, okay, the only way that something horrible happens is if like somebody gets ejected or like foul trouble or they just come out and hit 25 threes. They could not throw a rock in the ocean. They were getting decent looks. Credit to Carolina's defense for causing some tough shots. But even the looks they got at the rim, they couldn't make it. It was unreal, Carter. I don't know.
Seton Hall, by hiring Holloway before the tournament, one of the greatest moves I've ever seen.
I guess
hired him before the tournament.
Yeah.
And he can coach his tail off, man, because
he's a hell of a coach.
That's the best motion offense I've seen in college basketball this year. For how little talent they really had, that offense was beautiful. They were getting wide open shots, great layups, great looks. They played tough man-to-man defense.
I agree. But eventually everybody knew it had to run out at some point.
If they were going against a truly great big, like if they were going against an All-American level big, they were going to lose, it felt like. Because I don't think Purdue's bigs, I think they're highly overrated.
I agree.
And one other guy just has to do anything, and that's it. Like, even just be average. Because Kentucky, like, Schwebe, I'll never be able to say his name right.
Shibwe.
We're not getting into that. He literally had like 30 and 20, but nobody else could do anything in that game.
Yep, exactly. And that's the thing for Carolina is Bacot had 20 and 22. And everybody else was just average. RJ Davis only had 9 points. Manick had 19 and 8. He played really well. Caleb Love was only 6 or 17 with 14 points. Like, he did okay.
Yeah.
But, like, it was more than enough to get the job done, though. And I just wasn't nervous the whole time. It felt good to just sit there and be like, going to the Final Four. But it almost, like, lessened the excitement a little bit. Because, like, a close game like UCLA or something, you're like, holy shit, we just won. Like, we're going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
But we were up 20 in the first half. So I'm like, we're in the Final Four.
You take that any day of the week, though. You take that
100%.
Any day of the week. Yeah,
100%.
I would rather if Duke won by 1,000 every game in this tournament, it'd be the best tournament ever.
100%. I agree.
Texas Tech game, I about died from a heart attack. That was awful. Texas Tech was just making ridiculous shots too. But then the Arkansas game, when Duke came out kind of flat again.
Yep.
Duke comes out flat every game. Honestly, when Trevor Keels hit that three at the end of the first half, I knew we won.
Yeah, it felt like that. It seemed like
there was a little scare in the second half where they got it within 5. Cates called a timeout, and we went on a 10-0 run immediately.
That's the thing. Like, every little mini run that Arkansas went on, Duke had an answer. Duke increased the lead to double digits once again. Arkansas just didn't have enough good offense, I feel like. And Duke made shots when it mattered. In that game was, what was it, a 9-point game was the final? It felt a lot more skewed than that.
It was like 16, right?
I don't think it was. I think it was a 9-point game. Yeah, 78-69 was the final.
Yeah. I mean,
it just felt like honestly, it was more than that.
Yeah, I mean, when AJ Griffin hit that final corner three to go up by like 16, I mean, I thought I was going to get a noise complaint from the neighbors.
Yeah, I was watching that.
You just in the Final Four, but it also Duke played Saturday night, so it kind of lessened it a little bit because you knew you're playing Carolina and you did not want to play Carolina, and just it's happening. Like, how is this happening?
That's the thing, is you were all over UCLA because that was Carolina's best chance to
I was all over anybody that was going against Carolina because I was begging for this not to happen.
But you were silent on St. Peter's because I think you just accepted it by that point. You're like, there's no way Carolina doesn't win by 20.
Like, and I wasn't even trying to do the reverse jinx thing.
No, I know.
Like, I was dead serious. I was like, I literally don't see a way. Carolina minus 8.5 was the easiest blind money in history of basketball. Carolina minus 5.5 first half and minus 8.5 full game. Easiest money you could have ever placed in college basketball.
Yeah.
There's no way they had enough gas. St. Peter's was running out of gas on Thursday or Friday night.
They literally expended all their energy against Purdue, it felt like.
But shout out to them. That was awesome.
That was a great run. And I hate having to pull against them because I loved, watching the Cinderella runs.
Because imagine if Duke got to play St. Peter's in the Final Four.
That would be an easy game. Then you'd probably win the championship because you wouldn't be hungover for the Final Four game.
And we'll get into it. Let's talk about the Final Four.
Yeah, let's do it.
Duke, Carolina. I've said it 1,000 times already on Twitter. The winner of that game is losing the title game, no matter what, if Kansas is the opponent.
I 100% agree. And it's just like that trade-off feeling because you're like, gosh, like there's nothing I want more than to beat Duke or for you to beat Carolina one more time and the rubber match, the third match, avenge Coach K's home loss or end Coach K's career.
All bragging rights for eternity for this game.
But then, it's just going to be such a letdown because that is their national championship, it feels like. And if one of those teams wins and goes on to play Kansas, they might get stomped. I hate to say that. Even as a Carolina fan, I think especially if Carolina beat Duke, they might be gassed and get stomped.
Either team. I think Duke would keep it close. I really do.
Yeah.
Just because I do think Duke has – because Carolina, you're just like, how is this happening? Even as a Carolina fan, you still have to sit there and think, how on earth is this happening? I watched this team in February get blasted by Pitt by 20. How is this happening where someone goes off for 30 every game? Someone just goes off for 30.
I literally sit there. I'm like, this can't be the same team I watched get shit on by Wake Forest in the Lawrence, Joel.
And
it's
it
crazy.
Was the NC Central coach. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He tweeted out, the UNC Duke game was the best thing to happen to both teams.
I think so too. I honestly do. But here's the thing. I know the eternal bragging rights. Sure. It will not erase what happened in Cameron. He will never play there.
If they win the title, it erases everything that happened in Cameron.
He will never play in
Cameron everything.
Again. It doesn't erase it. It might dampen it and
No, it erases it.
It does not. It does
not. Because if some Carolina fans oh yeah, we beat you guys in Cameron and Coach K's last game, it's yeah, we beat you in the Final Four and won the title.
Yeah, I guess.
You can't a title trumps everything.
And then I'm coming back with that.
You kind of almost wish it was the national title game because then it would truly settle everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It feels like a national title game. It feels like this is the end-all, be-all game, but yet the winner has one more game to play. In theory, and it's a bigger game. It's the national championship.
Exactly. And it's a lot like – this is a random analogy. Houston-Louisville in the 1983 semifinals. They had probably – if you watch the highlights, there was 10,000 dunks in that game. Clyde Drexler jumped over a dude. Unbelievable game. Then they have to go against NC State in the next game.
And State won.
Exactly.
That is a good analogy because it just feels like that. It just feels like this is the Super Bowl for both teams. And it's just the biggest letdown spot in sports.
But we can talk about there's a lot of storylines possible here because Carolina wins and Nova wins. Carolina revenge match for 2016, and that's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Duke, if Duke wins and Kansas plays each other, Coach K won his first title in 91 against Kansas.
Yep.
And then Coach K wins his last title against Kansas. Grant Hill's on the call.
Yeah. Minor storyline. Carolina, if they play Kansas, Roy Williams coached at Kansas first, so we'll just be trying.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. So,
and then also Duke Nova, because I think this is also. I really don't think Nova wins. I don't think Duke wins, but we'll get into that. Duke Nova. If Jay Wright did beat Duke, Jay Wright is going to eventually probably be the best coach in college basketball history. He would be on track.
They are consistently at the top, and people are arguing now, are they a blue blood? I dare say yes. In college basketball,
100% yes.
They have been consistent.
Titles.
They've been so much better than Kentucky ever has been in the last however many years Calipari's
20.
been there. Yeah, they've been consistently been at the top in national title games, 2018, 2016, always been near the top, always making a deep run. Where's Kentucky? Losing to St. Peter's in the first round. If they're considered
Calipari's the biggest fraud.
Oh, yeah. And Jay Wright's so much on a different level than him.
Jay Wright's incredible. And he's going to – because all these talk shows are talking about these larger-than-life coaches like Dean Smith, Roy Williams, John Wooden, Bobby Knight, all that. I think the only one that is honestly capable of that right now is probably Jay Wright because that dude is about to reach a whole nother level. If he can win a third title,
in what? And that would be third title in 6 years, I think. 6 or 5, really, because the tournament got canceled.
So,
16, 17,
16,
18, 19.
So, but like technically
So
six, but
six
really
tournaments.
5 tournaments.
Six
tournaments. Yeah.
Six tournaments. That's crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, there's unbelievable storylines going into this. And you're going to be there.
I am going to be there. We are. My cousin and I are going to be down there. You might be there. You probably will be there.
Yeah, see, the thing is, this is like Carolina fans. This is how they work. Wine and cheese club. You're getting wined and dined. You're taking an easy plane ride right into. You're getting wined and dined into an easy plane ride into New Orleans. You're going to stay at a nice hotel right near the stadium. Have food catered, pregame activities, and everything. I'm doing the grit and grind approach.
Oh my
Joe
gosh.
Dirt out here. I'm John Gruden getting in the dirt. Probably shouldn't even say John Gruden, but he's a gritty guy.
Tell you what, man.
Yeah, exactly. Grit and grind. I'm flying from a tiny airport in Idaho down to Dallas. I have to hitchhike a 5-hour ride all the way to Covington, Louisiana. Shout out Theo Vaughn.
Gosh, you poor little boy, Carter. I'm so sorry you're having to do this. Who's forcing you to do all this horrible work?
And then I'm gonna have to sleep in the backyard in a backyard in Covington, Louisiana, where there's gators nearby.
Oh my gosh. Hey, you know what? It's going to be worth it though. We talked about it. You said you'd drive a gazillion miles to go to this game. And I would too, because that was the original plan. And then I was like, senior year, let's just ball out, whatever.
I had no intentions of going to this game, and I still don't even know if I'm going to go or not. It's still 50-50 if I go.
Yeah.
I have to go.
I think you do. Because let's be honest, even making a Final Four in general is maybe not once in a lifetime, but once every couple decades, maybe.
Even just Duke made the Final Four, I still don't think I don't think I would go. Duke, Carolina, like this. That will never. Real. It hasn't settled in yet because I'm still thinking about like Duke, Carolina, man, that would suck. But I'm like, it's actually happening this Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like there's another game to like prevent it or something. Like that is the next game. And on top of that, it's never happened before in the tournament, nonetheless, the Final Four, and it probably won't ever happen again. Like I don't see this ever happening in the Final Four again.
No. I don't think this ever happens ever again.
This is once in a lifetime. And to say you were there, like even obviously I'm going to be heartbroken.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is you're going to be on the floor right next to the basket on TV. I'm going to be, crawling with the rats in the 600 level with my binoculars trying to watch the game. Just see a glimpse of a basketball.
Here's the thing though. If Carolina loses, I'm going to be heartbroken. But what a sporting event to be at.
If you have to go. Like
people are saying it might be the most watched college basketball game ever. I think has to. There's probably has to be.
Yeah, no way it's not.
I'm thinking the same thing.
And
they knew what they were doing.
The second game. I was going to say kind of surprised it was the second game.
I wasn't. They knew what they were doing. Because then
just how the times work out. Because what time is it at East Coast time?
So the first game, Nova, Kansas, is at 6:09 p.m. And then Duke, Carolina is at 8:49.
That one's not going to start until like 9:15.
Yeah, but they knew what they were doing because if Carolina Duke played first, if Carolina loses, all the Carolina fans are probably going to leave pissed, and vice versa. If Duke loses, everybody's probably going to leave.
Well, it's all for TV. I mean,
yeah. You know what I love though? You know what I love? Correct me if I'm wrong here. The people left over from the Nova Kansas game, they're probably going to be pulling for Carolina over Duke. Do you not think so? I think it's going to be a pro Duke crowd as opposed to Carolina fans, but I think fans from other teams may pull against Duke. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't think Nova fans will. I don't know how well Nova fans travel or not. I've never been to a Villanova sporting event or anything.
Yeah.
But I think Kansas fans will pull in favor of Carolina, but I think Nova fans would still go for Duke.
That's fair.
Could be wrong.
It would be especially different if Roy was still coaching, because then Kansas fans will probably pull for Roy. But I still think they'll probably.
I don't know because it kind of depends on like who loses that game, and nobody's leaving that stadium after the Kansas.
It's going to be electric. It's going to be electric in there,
man.
It's going to be crazy. I can't believe it's happening.
I'm still working out the details. It's going to be a miracle for me to get down there, but.
We might do a little live casting, a little rapid reactions, maybe at halftime or something if it's close. I don't know.
I'll show my grit and grind approach where I'm, flying on a tiny airline, tiny airplane all the way to Dallas, Texas, then drive 5.5 hours to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. It'll be okay. We'll figure it out. You'll get there.
I'll get there one way or another. But all right, cool. That's it for us. Make sure we have episodes. We'll have an episode coming out Friday, a big preview before the game.
Yep.
Let all the talk settle in. Let everything go in. We're going to have articles coming out this week about the game and the Final Four, even NBA articles coming up soon because we got playoffs coming up. NBA season's almost over, which is crazy.
It is crazy. Not, right after this, there's no off period because the playoffs start right after this.
Because, I'll see the records. I'll be, 30, 33, something like that. You're like, 63 games. We still got 20 left. And then all of a sudden, you look yesterday, you're like, we only have 8 games left.
7 now. The Hornets have 7 games left.
Yeah. 7 games.
That is insane. Hey, and side note, if we host a playing game, I think we have to go.
I don't think I can make that. I think
you probably won't.
I don't think I can make a cross-country flight for an 8 seed trying to make the playoffs.
If we get into the actual playoffs, though, that's going to be so electric.
And then you're talking.
Yeah, that's fair. God,
then you're talking. Because I'll be in North Carolina. You think the Hornets will still be in the playoffs by May 14th?
That would mean they have to win a whole round and then probably take the next one to a few games.
The Eastern Conference Finals.
I wouldn't bet that. I don't think I'd bet that.
Exactly, but awesome. Well, make sure to check out CarterCast.com. Make sure to check out all of us on social media at Connor_Sparrow, at CarterB8. And make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review all the YouTube videos and on the podcast as well. And we will see y'all Friday. And can't believe this is actually happening.
It's here. Doomsday is upon us.
Bye.